So for this video, I'll just be doing a walkthrough with writing an article, which in this case for me is the Asian lady beetle. But this will just give you information and just give you a nice idea of how you should be going about making your article before you publish it. This isn't like mandatory for you to watch, but I heavily recommend that you watch it because it pretty much guarantees that you'll be able to get your article approved if you follow all the steps that we talk about here. So the first step will be to finding an available species that hasn't been covered. So that could be finding species like in your nearby areas, taking a picture of it and emailing us to see if there's an article written on it. Or you could directly email us and ask if there are any available species, and we could send you pictures, the location, all that information, and then you could just start your research on it. So over here I'm just showing you some pictures with different angles of what I've seen in my area. So the next thing we want to do is here on our website, if you go to the join page, you can see the article requirements under the application prompt. So there's all the requirements here in the highlighted text. And here's everything that you need to have in your article, everything that's required. So based on whatever step you're starting with, so we'll have to go to the number one here. There's a bunch of stuff. It looks like a lot, but this is kind of like the basic information that you do need. And a lot of it is up to you. It's not really rigid, but starting with the first step here, taxonomy and evolutionary history, you want to understand what the requirements are and what you need to research for each section. And then because we have it all typed out for you, it'll be way easier for you to actually do your research with usage of AI and such. So the next step is actually learning the biology concepts that you need to actually write the article. So we're going by section here. So back at our page, if you go to the learn section, where you normally see the species database, we have a section at it called biology concepts. And there you could search and find information on, the main sections that are in our articles. So this isn't necessarily just used for writing articles, but it's for people that, if they don't understand certain stuff. So now for learning this, you don't have to use our website. For a lot of people, just doing research on their own, searching it up, that's also a really good way for them to use it. But we also have it provided on our site. So it's up to you, whichever you want to use. All right, so now doing the research portion of this, probably the longest, most time-consuming portion. Actually, maybe the writing. But yeah, so going into it, here I have some AI open, but we'll focus on this later. One of the most probably preferred ways of doing research is just manually searching it up on Google. So with the first part here, taxonomy of the Asian lady beetle. So we search it up. There's a lot of things that can come up with this. So I'm looking at iNaturalist here. So after clicking on it, pretty good site. They've got pictures. Nice. I see some citations, hyperlinks. Now, how do we know this is a reputable site though? We want our information to be coming from good websites. So unsure on iNaturalist, we'll go back, search more about Asian lady beetle. More sites. Google themselves will give us some direct answers with them doing their own research. And now we have with Gemini. I don't know, Gemini didn't pop up here, but with Gemini, you also get some AI usage in that part. Now we can focus on, now let's look at some AI. You could directly ask AI to give you in-depth sources on whatever your topic is. So in-depth source on the Asian lady beetle here. You see that searching the web? Here, I'll highlight it for you. Searching the web. That means it's, searching the web. You see some sources popped up there. So information, info. If we look at the bottom here, the sources, it says all the sources that were used to get this information. So bunch of sources, good. How do we know how good the sources are though? Well, we could just ask ChatGPT there. How reputable are the sources you used? And it'll give us the answer. Nothing to hide there. So Journal of Insect Science, nice, good, pretty good. So see, it's not just saying every site that it's used is good. See, Wikipedia here, it says no, not as trustworthy because anyone can make edits to Wikipedia. It's not really to refine the tag. Still can be a good source, but for educational purposes, you don't want to use Wikipedia here. So you could ask it for more, reputable sources. Don't have to have it just find the reputable sources when doing its uh, research part. You could ask it directly for some good sources. So here it gives us some good general sources, not specific links, right? General sources. See, Google Scholar, that's one. I'll talk about Google Scholar later. But yeah, you get some good sources. Make sure they're reputable. Really easy to do that with, AI, ChatGPT. Okay, so we could ask for how reputable specific links are. And you see searching web. I don't really. I mean, I guess you could search up to find this out. Yeah, let's see. It looks like it went to iNaturalist. But so yeah, like I pasted the specific link for iNaturalist, and I asked it directly, is it a good website? And it says, yeah, bottom line, pretty good, reputable, valuable. It says still apply some scientific rigor. So yeah, you can directly also ask it for specific links as well if they're reputable. Now on the topic of Google Scholar. So here we have some. So yeah, so it's just like Google. We're getting sources. But the thing about Google Scholar is they're 99% of the time, they're going to be reputable sources. And it's also really easy to cite your sources here. So yeah, just like first source there, multicolored Asian lady beetle, review of its biology, use in biological control, journal Insect of Science. It's a pretty good resource to use. So just like ChatGPT here suggested as a reputable source, um, Google Scholar came up. So now back to the thing about noting down your sources. Every time you find sources, you want to note them down somewhere. It could be in your own document like I'm doing here, or it could be straight onto your research document that you submitting your paper on. But you want to note it all down because you're going to need to cite them in the end. You don't want to rush back to find them, to find sources that you use. So back to the looking at AI using reputable sources. See, the reason I'm really stressing on this with AI is because it's a really efficient way to do your research, but if you use it even a little bit like wrong, it'll completely mess it up because you won't be getting the proper sources. It could give you wrong information that could just completely destroy your whole paper that you're writing. So looks like it froze here, so I might have to. You know what? We'll leave this for now, and we'll look at the actual when you're using AI to directly do your research. The best thing I think that you guys should do is go to the article requirements, whatever section that you're working on. You want to do it section by section when doing your research, and just copy all the article requirements for that section, and you could just directly paste it into whatever AI you're using. Staying with ChatGPT in this case. So yeah, you could directly ask it to do some good research, and then just directly paste. I'll just specify here, and then directly you could just paste your requirements. So for this information, and then I'll just paste it in. So it'll directly search for what I asked it to search for. I can specify use reputable sources, so I don't have to worry too much about it hallucinating, just making sure it's searching the web. So I'll just stick with use reputable sources. And we'll see what comes up. Searching the web. See, it says searching the web. So we know it's actually looking online and finding sources here. And with, OpenAI's new features they added, you can have just run deep research. You can make sure it searches the web. There's a section there. So I think all that stuff, there's limits on it if you don't have premium version of ChatGPT. But yeah, so you have a lot of options to make sure it's actually getting you good information. You just have to be mindful of it so you know what you're actually doing. So yeah, here we see good. It's used sources. Nice summary at the end. But yeah, that's how you use AI. So next year is the writing portion. So after we've done our research, we have our sources, reputable sources. We want to get to the actual writing part, and remember, we don't want to directly plagiarize from, whatever sources we use from you, not just copy and pasting. Whether you used AI or just straight up, search manually found resources, you want to type this out on your own so you actually get the learning out of it. And so it's, actually better for other people to understand. You want to write this yourself. And that's kind of part of our whole thing that you've signed, the waiver that you've signed. If you're writing these articles, you're not just going to plagiarize from AI. This is your own words here. Because we're trying to, remember, the whole point of this is building a community together. So if we go to the website, looking at the article requirements, we can see exactly what we need to write for our document. So after putting the title, first thing in, we'll talk about the taxonomy, which is what we've been doing. So scientific name, and as per our research, Harmonia axyridis. And as you see on ChatGPT, there was a citation. So going back to that, we do know that it's from a reputable source. So although you see me bolding, underlining, this stuff you don't really need to focus on right now. I'm just doing it for peace of mind as I write it. But you focus more on, formatting it a little bit later. But right now it's just getting the information. The main thing you want to look at is the type of information that you're actually noting down. So listed kind of information, you can put that in bullet points like I'm using here. So common names. This is all a list kind of information. Harlequin ladybird, Asian lady beetle, multicolored Asian lady beetle. So here, as we can see, this is from Wikipedia, which, as we saw with our previous analysis of sources, Wikipedia isn't the greatest place to get your information from. So we'll take this information. We'll put it in for now. But, so what do we do here? It's Wikipedia. So we can't directly use this information. But leaving out how good the information is, list information, you want to put it in bullet points. That's probably the best way to put it down so it's easy for people to read. So you see how there's a list. We're just going to go with classic bullet points. When you submit it, I don't have any preference on what kind of bullet points you use. You can use whatever you want. Just, you want to keep it looking professional. But so yeah, here it's Wikipedia. So don't think I could trust it too much. So I'm actually going to remove this for now. And we'll do a little bit of further research. Now, this is a common step when you're doing your writing part. You might find that some information might just be wrong or might not come from a great source. So you don't have to completely just ignore that part. You could just latch onto specifically what that information is and search it up on your own here. So right now, this thing that we found from Wikipedia is these are alternate names. So right now, we're just going to quickly specify with GPT that we don't want it to use Wikipedia. So now searching the web here, getting some sources. Good. Yeah, reputable academic and institutional sources, no Wikipedia. So see bugguide.net. And we're getting pretty much the same information. So we can go back to what we originally had with Wikipedia, but now we know it's from a more reputable site. And yeah, they have it all listed out. Nice. We got the same names here. Yeah, as you can see here, so we do know it's from this website. We know it's not hallucinating like I warned you of before. Now looking at taxonomic classification. So they got the kingdom, phylum, subphylum, class, subclass, order, suborder, infraorder, superfamily, family, subfamily, tribe, genus, and species. Now this I wouldn't consider this straight list information. This is more of an organized information, so I would put this in a table. So this is another way of presenting information. I feel like in this case, this is probably the best way to put it, because we have different ranks and we have the actual name for each rank. So if we just put each thing in specific for each part, that organize it really well for readers to, effectively read this. So I'm not going to fully type out each one. Let's just say we're putting in each name for it. And now look, Animalia. And now we're just going to quickly evaluate the site here. I'm not going to do this for every single piece of information that I'm showing you, but this is what you should be doing. I'm assuming you've already evaluated your sites, and as you're doing it, you're just quickly checking that the information is actually in that site. So yeah, etc. That's basically what we'll do in this table. So a nice easy way for readers to understand this information. Next up, close relatives. So this is more of kind of paragraph sentence kind of information. I wouldn't, even though it's organized as bullet points, to me this isn't really list information. This is more of just an explanation of close relatives. And looking at it, we got some pretty good sources. But yeah, back to the type of information here. This is more of a list kind of information. So I would put this in a new section. So close relatives. And then formatting. Formatting isn't really a priority right now, but I'll just quickly do it. This is just the way I like to do it. So close relatives. Now, it's not a list, so this one I'll probably just type out. And then if there's list information within my typed information, then I'll have bullet points inside my kind of mini paragraph or paragraphs. So now looking at the information here, roughly 20 species. So I'm going to leave out the part here where I actually evaluate whether it's inside the source. That's what you want to do, but just because I don't want to take up too much time doing it. Assuming I've looked at the source and it's got pretty much the same information, I can verify that this is good. So I'll just start typing out the information in my own words in a nice and organized manner so it's easier for readers of all levels to understand what I'm talking about. Harmonia. So as you can see, this is a pretty time-consuming process, but this is the way to do it. This is how you write an article that people can actually understand. You don't want to just plagiarize because there's a really high chance of getting wrong information. So just referring back and making sure we're not making any mistakes here. Modern Eurasia. So as I finish typing out this information, I come to the point where now I'm at the part like I talked about before. There's some little bit of list information here within my type of paragraph that I'm trying to write, or this part of the article. So within my paragraph, I can have, my examples, whatever those examples are. And now going back to the main part of the paragraph. Just continuing my typing. And I'll just leave this part a little bit quiet just so you guys can see my process here. So you could take this time just to use this as an example on how you're writing your article. Remember, this is just a walkthrough. It's a quick walkthrough of how I write mine. So you could just take this time to do yours in a similar fashion. So right here, see something about color polymorphism and electropigmentation. Now this is an example. As you're doing your research, you will come across some things that aren't maybe not completely explained in the article that you found. So this part of now during the writing process, this is a step that I call deeper research or clarifying research. Because the whole point of this article is you want everything to be understandable to the audience. So you can't just assume that they know what this kind of color pigmentation gene is. So this is like a great example of something that while ChatGPT here just kind of briefly touches it, we want to go into this a little more deeply in our article. So we'll note it down here and we'll go into it a little bit after. So to me, one way that we could do the further research is go into the website, which talks about it, or we could do some direct research on our own. Let's go straight into Google here. I'll just finish typing out this part so we could further expand on it a little bit later. So just leading into it with these are, and I will just search up what the electropigmentation genes are. And here, nih.gov, perfect, beautiful resource to use. Now looking at these, it's got good sites. Definitely want to check them before I do it. But I know 100% nih.gov, great resource. So looking at it here. Yeah, another way I'd say we use AI here again just to give us a nice quick overview of it. So one thing that we've actually learned here now, the Electra is that back wing area, which we can see here. What sources did we use? Always want to make sure we're using good sources. That's the biggest thing you want to make sure when you're using AI to do your research. So just let's say we do that. Don't want to waste too much time. These are, etc. whatever they would be based on our research here. Now, let's so yeah, you just want to use all this information. I have to cut that. So the last thing I want to go over here in terms of writing and the information that you get is creating a graph. So when you have data and things that you could actually graph, you want to make one. It's probably the best way to visually show data. So first step is just simply making a table. Here we have year, population. The table part, pretty simple. Honestly, you don't have to it's not too rigid with the structure of the table that you need. Google Sheets can understand pretty well. And even if it doesn't, you could change it in graph settings, which I'll show you later. But let's just say you're going 2020 to 2025. Say, we'll just get some random numbers for population here. Give me a sec. I'm not too great at generating numbers on my own. Just put some things in here. Let's make it spike a little bit. It's gone up a little bit at the end there. Yeah, now all we have to do is just highlight our whole table, which I will show you. Just highlight the table, and there's a button up at the top corner, which is Insert Chart. And it'll automatically kind of create your chart. Now, there's a lot you could do in settings. I'm not really going to go into that here. I'm just showing you that Google Sheets is probably the best way you could easily get it into Google Docs easily. All you just have to do is copy it from Sheets. So Control-C or Command-C. And then just Control-V. I'd say paste it on link. You could link it to the spreadsheet, but no one really going to be... You don't want people to click on your thing when they're looking into the article. So the last step is the checking step, which, let's say this is our finished article. This is nowhere near the information. We barely have our taxonomy section. But let's say this is our full article here. And it's the main thing here right now is formatting. So what I was thinking was getting this graph, having the text wrapped around it. But before we do all that, we want to make sure our writing is finalized. So we're going to actually use AI again. For this one, I'm going to use DeepSeek. Now, DeepSeek I didn't use for research because it doesn't have access to the web. It's got a bunch of knowledge on its own, but I want access to the web, so I use ChatGPT. Now, for writing, I'm going to use AI to give me corrections on how I could improve the writing. Because writing is originally mine. Now I just need, to improve the grammar. So it's going to give me some nice things I could fix, because we want this to be nice and professional. So grammar clarity could be a little better. Scientific precision. Okay. Flow and conciseness. Flow is the main thing for me that I like having AI help me with. Makes it look really nice. So really underestimate how good AI can actually be with this writing. But it also has kind of like a AI feel to it when you see the writing, so you don't want to just copy paste this as well. You want to look at what it's saying. See this variation linked to electrical pigmentation genes. So it's got a bunch of good ones. So you just want to make some changes based on what it says here. So we'll make a few. So let's give you guys time to do that as well. I'll just show you what I usually do. So grammar clarity. So here the genus of the Asian lady beetle. That seems a little unclear according to DeepSeek. So I'll change it nicely. Asian lady beetle belongs to the genus Harmonia. Yeah, see, that looks a little nicer. I just changed like a sentence, but still. So all these small corrections really elevates how good your article is and how it flows. Doesn't really change the information. It's just how well your writing is and how presentable it looks. So right here, we don't actually use a redundant part. So yeah, which comprises of around, and now that's got way more professional language used. Nice. Now going back to DeepSeek. Let's assume, obviously spelling mistakes is one thing you want to check for, but let's assume we make these writing corrections. We've done this for all our writing sections. Now next thing is formatting, which formatting kind of up to you how you want to do that, but you want to keep everything pretty uniform. You don't want everything to have its own font, its own size. So I'm gonna try to center. I'm gonna make everything to the center. That looks kind of weird actually. I might keep it back to the side. But yeah, next thing, like I said before, I want to have this graph nice and having the text wrapped around it. Now this is one thing I've seen common in a lot of other articles, so let's try to do this here. I want to have this in the close relative. The graph and what this section is completely unrelated, but ignoring what's inside this, I'm just showing you how I would do this. Now, to get the text wrapped around it, you need a little bit of knowledge with Google Docs here. That's one upside to, working with these articles. Get some good Google Docs knowledge, and Google Sheets if you have a lot of graphs. So, yeah. Understanding this honestly took me some time. But let's assume my list is a little bit longer. Now we just gotta clear up this big gap in between our list and the second section. what I could do, maybe change this as the graph a little bit, so the text can wrap upwards a little more. Yeah, yeah. Now look at that, gap's closing a little bit. Now we just go to nice, and this is kind of like what you want. Obviously, probably making the graph a little bit smaller so the text can, wrap around a little more would be better. But yeah, you could mess around with fonts. You want everything to have around like the same font. It'll look a little unprofessional if you have everything with a different font. But whatever looks best to you. Obviously, all of these, when you email it, we'll just email you back what you probably could fix. Now we're at the final stage after we've written our whole article, assuming this is our whole article again. We have all our sources, and you want all of these to be cited. Now, this is assuming you've checked all your sources are reputable, all your information is from these sources. You want to cite them. And I use mybib.com. That's what I feel like is best for, just getting your things with a citation. So you can just directly copy it from here, paste it straight onto your document or wherever your sources cited section is, which I think is like 18 or 17. Yeah, 17. Source and citation. So you want credible papers. I like to go MLA, but APA, MLA works, just it should all be consistent. And one thing is, when I paste it here, I'll show you. At the end of it, there's a link. You want to make sure that link is like hyperlinked, which you see it's not blue right now, but I'll go back to it real quick. Let me just format the sources section. But you want everything with the indent and everything. That's all part of the citation, the indent. So you just want to number it. Nice. Now, another way I like to have my things cited, you could directly give all your sources to ChatGPT and make that just MLA cite everything, which is way faster. Which I don't know why you do it any other way. To be honest, I was just kind of giving you the option. Some people like doing it old school, but you could just do it like this, and you have everything. Just direct copy paste. This isn't a plagiarism. This is just getting your citations in a more efficient way. So if anyone says that's plagiarism, let them know. So yeah, we'll just back to formatting a little bit here. Yeah, the downsides to copy and pasting from ChatGPT. Nice. So yeah, back to what I was saying with that link at the end. You want to make sure that's hyperlinked. So just Control K that. But you want to do that for every single one, because you want that link to the original text that you got it from. I'm not going to do it for every single one here, but that's what you want to have, that link at the end. But for source and citations, that's pretty much everything you need. Now, last thing is submitting your article. And you want to send your article to our email, which is ecowestwindsor. I'll show you here. ecowestwindsor@gmail.com. It's linked on our website, so shouldn't have any issues finding that. But you want to have the subject. Again, this is all on our website. I'm just going to show it here, though. Article submission. You don't need to put your name, because your name should come up when you're emailing it. If your name isn't in your email, that's all fine. You should, when you signed up, your email should be connected. You should have had your name in your email. So no need to directly give us your name. We already have that. But you want to share the document with us and make us an editor. We won't trust me, we won't do anything. But we need to have the editor to make the suggestions or any changes that we need to with your permission before we submit it. So then you just got to link it. Make sure now, after you link it, there's just a little more information we need, which is what you want your description to be, which you can see on our website how there's descriptions for things, and tags. So in this parentheses, I'll just put it in parentheses, kind of like a variable, but that's where you want to write your description, and then under that you're gonna put tags, and then just list out 3 tags that you want it to have. 3 or more tags. It could be. We'll if you put like a bunch, we'll try to get them all in. If there's way too many, we'll just pick the relevant ones. But yeah, just write all tags that you think should have. Yeah, generally we have three. But that's everything for that final check. After this, just we'll respond to you as quick as we can with any suggestions that we think should be made, and we'll publish it. We'll give you credit on the site, and that's your article. So for this part, this is more of a personal thing that you can have any studies that you did with your species, that you did research on, any kind of projects that you want to share with others that others can do. So this is just an example of what I did with the Asian lady beetle. I kind of made my own habitat with it all, and I made my own observations. So in this section, this author's notes section, I'll link a picture of it. I'll state my procedure, hypothesis, any observations I had, all that information about my study, and then I'll confirm with any information that I wrote about in my article from research I did. I'll match that with things that I observed from my kind of study, and that kind of shows the type of in-depth connection I have with this animal. It kind of verifies the information. So just like that, it doesn't have to be studies that you did. It could also be projects that you want to share with others. For example, like let's say I could share how I made the habitat. It doesn't necessarily have to be my study specific. So this is all things that you want to do and share with others, kind of help with that impact regarding the species.